Hello friends, this is Rajdeep. Welcome to Learning Insight for UGC NET-JRF Social Work Paper 2. And in this video, we'll discuss social action, social movement. And this channel is for preparing students for UGC NET-JRF and social work students who are studying in MSW and BSW. For them also, it will be helpful for their study material concern. So if you new in the channel, if you are new in the channel, consider for subscribing, and also please do like and share as well, so that I can get motivated to make videos. And so let's start. So first we will discuss the social action. And social, what is social actions? Social action is a method of social work, and remember, is a method of secondary method, or you can say indirect method of social work, because primary methods of social work are social casework, social group work, community organization. These are the primary or direct method of social work. And social action, social welfare administration, and social work research, these three methods are indirect or secondary method of social work. So social action is a method of social work, can be defined as an effort to bring about change or prevent change in current social practices or situation through action, through education, propaganda, persuasions, or pressures on behalf of objectives believed by the actionists to be socially desirable. So social action is nothing but fight against the social injustice, and generally social actions involve organized effort to influence public opinion or officially policy or executive actions with the support of group or individual. Now, what are the characteristics of social action? First, social action is concerned with change in current social practices. So it's concerned for the changing of current systems that feel discontent or feels problems. The social actions involve a goals accepted as desirable and worthwhile by the actionists. So it's a goal to bring desirable situation or better situation. Social action always involve an attempt to bring about action by the people other than the social actionists. So it's not work by the leaders, it's a mass involvement or people action. Now, social actions any include action. Social action any include method. So it's include the method of education, propaganda, persuasion, pressures, but it does not recommend physical coercions or compulsions. So it's a method for to bring change or social actions by the education, propaganda, and pressure, creating pressures, not any physical compulsion. That means any a fight or physical pressures or physical fighting. These are not recommended. Now, social actions to be identified with certain methods and procedures rather than certain social values. Now, moving to the form of social actions, there are Bitro. Remember, Bitro has identified two type of social actions. So he had identified two type of social actions. First one, action initiated and conducted by the elite for benefit of the masses. So elite class take actions for the benefit of masses, means common public, and another form of social actions, that is popular social actions. So again, he identified each type into three sub models, and we'll discuss three sub models of these two type of actions. First, uh, action initiated and conducted by elite for the benefit of masses. This type of action again has three sub models. First one, legislative action model. In legislative action model, elite try to modify the social policy by creating public opinion against the problem. So here the legislative action models, they try to reform the social policy, they may try to change the social social legislation, social act, then policies, then articles. This type of legislative action they taken. Now sanction model, the elite by gaining control over some economic, social, political, or religious weapons by to obtain benefit for the society. So sanction model, they try to control about some social, economic, and political and religious weapons by the for to obtain the benefit of the larger society. Now direct physical model, like takes action and punish those responsible for the cause of injustice. Direct physical models in this submodels, they want to punish the people who create injustice or who are the cause for the social injustice. Now moving to the popular social action model, again has three submodels. It's Pintic-Mistic submodels. It should be submodels. And this popular social action has three submodels. These are conscientization model, dialectic model, and direct mobilizations. The conscientization model based on Paul Freire's concept of creating awareness among the common masses through the education. The conscientization model is very important. Many times asked in your NET-JRF exam also. This model developed by Paul Freire, and this model talk about the creating awareness among the common masses, and the main tools is to education, educating them. Now dialectic model promoting conflict to exploit the contradiction in a system with the belief that a better system will emerge as a result. So dialectic model is promoting conflict and the belief that better system will emerge through this model. Now, direct mobilization model, whereby specific issues are taken up by the actionists and masses are mobilized to protest and strike to achieve the objectives. Direct mobilization models, they take some issues and then the actionists, that means the leaders and the common masses, mobilize the protest in some kind of strike for the realization of the objectives. Now, next, the principles of social actions. So again, Vitro has described the following principle of social actions. The principle of credibility building, in then principle of legitimation, principle of dramatization, and principle of multiple strategies. So we'll discuss this four first. Vitro talk about that the principle of credibility building suggests to create public images of the leadership, the concerned organization, and the followers of the movement as promoter and supporter of justice, equality, and truth. Now, principle of legitimation is the process of convincing the public that the movement objectives are legal and morally right. So it's a process of convincing the public regards to the movement and objectives are legally and morally right. The principle of dramatization is the principle of mass mobilization by which the leaders of the movement motivates the populations by emotional appeal of heroism, sensual news, powerful slogans, and other techniques. So these are kind of principle of dramatization. The principle of multiple stages, achieving the goals and objective of social actions required by principle of multiple stages. The four stages have been identified by Daltman and Duncan. So these multiple stages are education strategies, persuasive strategies, facilitative strategies, and power strategies. So these are the multiple stages taken by Daltman and Duncan. Now, principle of dual approach. So the principle suggests that social actionists should build counter systems which is believed to be beneficial to the needs of the mobilized public on self-help basis without self-help basis without involving opponent. Now counter system must be built up and traditional system input by transform in development operations. Now moving to the principle of manifold programs, the principle recommend three categories of program such as social program, economic program, and political program. So in these principles, the manifold programs include social program, economic program, and political program. Now strategies of social actions. Desai 1984 has classified the strategies of social action into three categories. So Desai 1984 classifies strategy of social actions into three categories. First, that bargaining and negotiating. These strategies could include techniques of bargaining, negotiating, and publicity, which leads to discomfort to the target change. So here they go for technique bargaining, negotiating, and publicity. That they are the problems faced by the population, and that list for target to change. Now, that advocacy through the media example, Satyagraha March method could also be used as a pursuit and target for change groups. So here is a advocacy strategies. Then conflictuals and confrontationals. These strategies assumes that strong measures tactics means techniques become necessary in some critical circumstances. For example, demonstrations, civil disobedience, and or direct action. So here required conflictual strategies. Now, technique of social action. Social action involves variety of techniques, often combination of them depending on the philosophy and ideology beliefs of the sponsor. That means the leaders or social actionists. Some techniques has been explicitly identified and are listed below. So these are the some of the techniques that can be taken combination of them, or you can take one or two of them. So these techniques are very important for social action. First one is fact finding, then publicity, advocacy using formal or informal media, then education, awareness building, conscientizations, then mobilizing support and favorable opinion through establishing institutional systems and political process, expressing anger, warmth, and hatred in democratic and innovative ways, cooperation and collaboration using slogan, negotiation, bargaining, and arbitrations, then disruptions, that means interpret the progress of or mild resistance or protest or marches, morcha, dharna, strike, boycott, fasting, then gherao. These are the kind of techniques of social action. Strong coercive techniques, that means extra legal measures or direct action. So these are the techniques of social actions. Now moving to steps of social action, these are the important steps that need to be followed for social action. First one, identify the problem in case of social injustice, and then you go for diagnosis it, and then gather information about and about who the principal actors means, who are the leader and what roles they play, what interests they have, and what benefit they derive. Then next go for determining the position to be taken, then identify the social action goals, that is expected outcome, then mobilizing support using both non-formal and formal methods and locating the network of influence and power, then go for setting up the machinery to carry out the struggles, canvas action, provide leaderships, and then go for laying down the strategy, a well-drawn output indicating the series of actions and their networking among leaders. And then go for laying down the communication channel and the decision making of the action movement. So after that you will go for carrying out the action, and then after action you have to reviewing the implementation, that means evaluate your implementation strategies. Then if the implementation strategy is not good, you go for alternative approaches and then work out the alternative plans. And again you have to go for sustaining the pressure, so you have to sustain the pressure for to bring change. Now, some writers have suggested all these stages into four steps. So these four stages are common for all social actions, and you have to go through these four stages if you are organizing any social actions. First, you need to create awareness, that means awareness building, then organizing people. The organizing people means common-minded people who have similar problems and wish to go for social actions, and then developing the strategies, that mean workout plans, and then go for actions. So after actions you have to go for evaluation also. So these four are steps suggested by the main some writers for the social actions. Now moving to social movement, there is a in the society a large number of change have been brought about by effort exerted by the people individually and collectively. So some such effort has been called social movement. Social movement both taken by individual or collectively, and therefore we can define social movement as a voluntary association of people engaged in a concerted effort to change attitudes, behaviors, and social relationship in a larger society. Social movement may be numerous kind. So it may be in the form of religious movement, reform movement, and revolutionary movement. So these are the example of social movement. Religious movement can be a social movement, then reform movements, then revolutionary movement. Now the following features, that means characteristic of social movement, may be make out. First characteristic, it is an effort by a group. It aim is to bring change in the society. It may be organized or unorganized. It may be peaceful or violent, but in social action, it should not be. It is not recommended violent. But in social movement, it sometimes may be peaceful or maybe violent. The life, his life is not certain. Its life is not certain. It may continue for a longer period of time and it may not be end soon. So these are the characteristic of social movement. Now, what are the cause of social movement? The values, behavior, and attitude of people is changing every time. People develop new ideas to bring change in the existing system and organize a movement. When they organize a movement, when a section of society feel isolated from the rest of the society, and community leaders develop insecurity, confusion, and frustrations. This confusion, frustration, or discontent or problem produce social movement. When they when social movement produce, when a group of people feel that injustice has been done with them, and for that injustice they become frustrated and alienated, and such feeling of injustice provide fertile provide fertile socially, and mm, for make them to bring for social movement. So this kind of feeling of injustice that fertile them, and then they go for social movement. Now what are the type of social movement? So one by one we'll discuss. First, migratory movement. So migratory movement takes place when a large number of people leave one country and settle some other places. For the reason for mass migrations may be discontent with the present circumstances or the attraction of bright future. So they go for migratory movement. Now, next, expressive movement, when people are facing with social systems form which cannot come out and which they feel powerless to change the result, is an expressive social movement. Now, next, Ethiopian movement. Ethiopian movement is one which seeks of create an ideal social system which can be found only in men's imagination but not in reality. So Ethiopian movement is found only in men's imagination, not in reality. The Sarvodaya movement can be called Ethiopian movement. Now next, reform movement. The reform movement is an attempt to modify some part of society without complete transferring it. So there's some reform is required in some part of society, not all. The moment to abolish unsociability can be considered as a reform movement. Now next, revolutionary movement. The revolutionary movement seeks to overthrow the existing social system and replaced it with greatly different way. The revolutionary movement wants to root out the system itself. The communist movement in Soviet Russia and China were revolutionary movement. Now next, that resistance movement. The resistance movement is an attempt to block a proposed change. Generally, resistance movement arises because people consider change too fast. Too fast means with very fast change is occurred. That's why they want resistance with the movement. The DMK social movement in Tamil Nadu against Hindus can be considered as resistance social movement. So this is all about, I have covered the social movement and social actions. So if you like the content, please consider for subscribing, and please share, do like if you feel that this concept is really helpful for your NET-JRF preparations.